Let's do this. What's going on, everybody? Reed here. We're going to do another edition of Narcissism is a Network. Let me tell you guys, hey, when those sick narcissists, psychopaths, and sociopaths get on your back, hey, you need to know exactly how to handle narcissists, psychopaths. I mean, they are some sick people, and they never stop. Very incompetent at doing things that maintain the support in your life. When it comes to this, that's all they're about. This is about narcissism as a network. When you're in front of that narc, you're not in front of an individual. You're in front of a doorway into a cruel and ruthless network. And they only have one purpose, and that is to harm you. If you don't think that's the case, stay around for these narcs for long. You won't be able to get away. I bet you. So, as a psychiatrist, I look at things completely different. That I can see right through that mask. That mask doesn't stop me from seeing what's really going on, right? I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and the south side is a very special place for this entire country and this culture. The racism couldn't fully break the south side. The south side was very resilient. Went through the prison industrial complex, survived waves of drug infestation, survived waves of redlining, in 2008, mortgage scams and things like that. I mean, the South Side has been taking hits for decades and is still haven't toppled, and I think the racists that exploit the resources on the South Side of Chicago, I think they've changed their strategies, right? We're entering in an information age, and I think they're starting to update their strategies. And I think it's important for people like me to help you understand what's going on. It's just that what I'm about to talk about is so bizarre. I'm not sure if you're going to believe that what I'm saying is actually true. So we're going to look at the Jackson family. The Jackson family is a cult. Yep. It's a cult. It is a narcissistic black family cult. And I'll give you some reasons why. And I think once you begin to look at the Jacksons, which was just like Black America's first, they are the first, the Jacksons are the first family of music. I don't know any other families that made a contribution like the Jacksons to this music and to the culture, things like that. But I'm going to make an argument that they were actually a cult. And this is a cult that intentionally unalived Michael. Yeah. I paint Michael completely different. To me, Michael was the light, the golden child, that by God's grace in Gary, Indiana, in the middle of nothing, was born out of nowhere. And he had an incredible amount of talent. But I think what his family did was intentionally unalived him in order to control him. They knew how much resources there was going to be worth. And I'm going to try and kind of help you understand it from the Jacksons from a different perspective, from my perspective. And all of them were in on it. I think all of them except Latoya, who I would say is the family scapegoat, right? The truth teller, right? The one everybody called crazy is the one that tells the truth, right? The reason why people call you crazy is because you set boundaries with them. You tell them no. And narcissists can't take no. They always go behind your back and start lying on you and start talking about you. These people are sick. Very sick. So here, so let me just look up here. Okay, let's see here. Explain Explain a family system that's headed by a narcissist. Right? I'm not sure if that's the right way to answer the question. Okay, let me see what I have here. Let me see what kind of. It had to think for a while for that. A family system headed by a narcissist, often sometimes a narcissistic personality disorder or strong narcissistic traits, is characterized by dysfunctional dynamics where the narcissist needs egos and control dominate all interactions. Yeah. See, this is very good. The narcissist needs, right? The narcissist ego. Yeah. And so that interaction with the narcissist means that you're in front of an unconscious animal, and their reactions are all based upon program reactions without no thought um, into the situation. Now, yeah, they intentionally create environments that's emotionally unbalanced, manipulative, and focus on maintaining the narcissist's self image rather than fostering healthy relationships or individual growth, right? Key characteristics of a narcissistic family system: centralized power structure, right? So in here, we're talking about Joe, right? Lack of empathy and boundaries. We're going to go through different histories by different members of this family and let them describe exactly what were the things that were considered lack of empathy and lack of boundaries. Right? Um, Another here we have manipulation and control tactics. Right? Yeah. Emotional volatility. Look at this. Intergenerational patterns. Remember they talk about that generational curse? There it is right here. These systems often perpetuate across generations, with children internalizing narcissistic behaviors or developing coping mechanisms like codependency. Internalizing the narcissistic behaviors and developing coping mechanisms like that's awful when they internalize um, those symptoms. Common roles within the family. Okay, now I'm going to look at the Jackson family according to this role theory and see if we can place the individual members within this family structure here. The narcissist head, okay, maintains the illusion of perfection and superiority. Okay, that's Joe Jackson right there. Okay, the enabler, often the spouse or other adult who places the narcissist who placates the narcissist, excuses their behaviors, and enforce rules on others. This is his mother. She remains silent throughout all of that stuff. And you know what? The thing about these narcissists, like the mothers, they present loving and kindly and caring. You've never seen Miss Jackson anything but caring, right? But why did you let that man do your babies like that? You know, why? Why you let the man why you let hubby do the babies like that? Um, you know, I don't have any empathy for her, and I see through that mask. Okay, next is the golden child, right? The golden child, the favored child who received praise and privilege for mirroring the narcissist ideals. See, here it is right there, mirroring. Michael, young Michael, was the golden child here. Now, the Jackson family, I believe, was a particularly malignant type of narcissist, where in order these narcissists understood they had the type of golden child that they had, right? They saw his potential. They knew how valuable this was. And these narcissists unalived him. Yep, the family, the fam, the fam unalived young Mike. And I'm going to tell you what it means when I say unalive. In order to get a child to become a mirror, you have to destroy their internal sense of self first. The more you destroy the person's internal sense of self, the more they reflect you as a mirror, the clearer the mirror becomes. We're going to talk about Michael Jackson and the things, the abuse he suffered, the torture he suffered at the hands of his entire family, right? If he was unalived in front of everyone, do you think anyone's going to ever say anything? This type of narcissist within this family structure was very deadly. And I believe this is what led to the movement against patriarchy. And I think eventually this led to what became later the Me Too movement. And that is that violence within families, particularly by matriarchal or patriarchal figures, are don't have our society ways to put them in check as easily. The issues are too complicated, right? The issues are too complicated. So here, next, the scapegoat. And this scapegoat, it'll be Latoya, right? The child blamed for family problems, often criticized or punished disproportionately. They bear the brunt of the narcissist's rage. Yep. I think Latoya started singing like a fish. Well, fishes don't sing. Anyway. The lost child, a withdrawn or invisible member who avoids attention to escape conflict, right? I think that's like Rebe Jackson, maybe many of them. And look, the mascot. You've seen this before on the South Side, even on the Northwest Side, right? These narcissistic families, the whole structures, and one of them is the mascot. The humorous or distracting child uses levity or to diffuse tension, and they mask pain with jokes, but often hide emotional turmoil. Now, these are the ones, and also these are the ones who can be very violent too. These are the ones who are at the lower end of the structure, and these are the ones that they will hurt you, right, and act out, perform a performance in front of everybody, take over the scene. These are very dangerous. So here we see the in a side of a narcissistic family structure, these are the roles, and I'm going to match all of these up to the different players, and then I'm going to go through their histories separately. Now, let me show you this next clip from Michael Jackson here. Now, I'm not going to show you the entire clip. I just want to give you an idea of, from his perspective, what are some of the things he was dealing with. And when I heard this, it made my heart pour out, because I believe he's talking about him at the age of maybe 6, 7, 8, or 9, something like that. And he describes the degree of violence that was directed him by his father, and it was torture. And there's nothing that anyone could do, a child could do, that would justify that degree of violence directed towards them. There's nothing that they can do to justify that degree of violence. But just and now when Michael, there's only when you know the pattern of narcissists, psychopaths, and sociopaths, there's only a few things a real victim has to say that let you know that, hey, this is really real. I mean, hey, This is real. Look at Michael, how he described what is essentially his torture by his father, and just look at him and let me put a trigger warning here also. Let me trigger warning.
Much. Would he only use a belt?
I'm sorry. Let me go all the way back to the beginning. Sorry about that.
How often would he beat you? Too much. Would he?
Yeah, you see the sadness on his face? Too much?
Use a belt?
Childlike grimace. Okay. In order for, when we're all born, our ego needs to form, right? Now, our ego has two components. One is an external component, and one is an internal component, right? So when a person is born, they have the external component only. That external component makes up mom, dad, the primary caretakers, the families, the community, the school, everyone who teaches you rules, So that external ego is there first, and you look out towards the people around you, and the way they react to you tell you exactly who you are, right? If they act with you with contempt, you're not a likable person. If they act with you with a lot of joy, you have a lot of joy, happiness, so you have a lot of value, right? So with people who are just born and developing, they have an external ego, but no internal ego, right? Let me give you an example. Remember when you go to church, you take off your hat and you follow all these different rules and you sit down and you remain quiet, right? You don't disturb the service, right? Now, you were taught that as a child. When you went into a church space, you didn't know about you. Somebody had to sit down and say, hey, and then you have to look around. Now you're an adult, you go there and you do it on your own hopefully without having another adult tell you to do so. Why? You internalize all of those values from your external ego. And now, since you internalize your values, when you grow up and you're in a church by yourself, you can now follow the rules. Right? And you don't need someone else outside there telling you to do something because you internalize those values, right? Over time, you build up this sense of self internally from all of these experiences and things like that. And then you no longer need the outside world to provide structure, to provide guidance, to provide anything for you. You're a person who's individuated and you separated from the group. So now you have two structures. You still have the external structure, which for most of us as adults, we start to ignore because we understand the external structure is composed of a lot of people, and those people may not like us. So they may give us signals that are not accurate. And when they give us signals that are not accurate, it makes us feel bad about ourselves. That's the external ego, right? But if your internal ego is strong, you can you can get rid of the excess, the outward one, and only go according to the way you view the world and the way your perspective and things like that. So the external ego is there first, and you slowly build up the internal ego as you develop over time. But what these narcissists, psychopaths, and sociopaths learned is they can stunt the development or the growth of the internal part of the ego. If they, by constantly putting you down, by making you believe things that are not true, giving you false beliefs, punish you over things that you shouldn't be punished for, all of these things have a way of disrupting the ego. And it causes psychological turmoil. And that's the process of what Joe did to him systematically by doing this. Everyone knew, and it's particularly his wife, and everyone remained quiet. Listen to what he says here.
Do you remember any time in your whole life when you weren't performing? Well, not really, no. We've always performed, yeah. Even when we were small kids,
Yeah. So performance means you're going to look outward into things that are not connected to you, and you're going to try and make those things happy by what? Singing or dancing. Very primitive, right? And to believe that those smiles and stuff are real, you know? Um, so what that's typical with most narcissists, the compulsivity, the lack of empathy, not to let allow this young child to have any childhood experiences, which would build his internal sense of self. He can only do the things that would make Joe money. And look at him at this age, right? So at this age, he was being tortured. And he was systematically having his internalized sense of self removed from him, which is the worst thing that you can ever do to a person because it made Michael Jackson completely reliant upon his external ego when his internal ego was damaged so much that it couldn't form. And so his whole ego structure is out of balance because only half of it's there, the external portion, not the internal portion. All of us need to grow the internal portions of our ego to remain resilient, to remain strong, to remain defiant, to overcome, to go against people's opinions. However, if we have no internal ego, we're forced to look at the people around us and get our self-esteem, our validity, and what we're worth from them. And we can only do that by going to them and putting on a performance. Removing your internal portion of your ego makes you dependent upon the opinions of the people around you. And because you need that in order to stop your suffering, it becomes compulsive. You have to compulsively seek the people's need from around you. That's why sick narcissists always go, when you cross that, when you draw boundaries for these sick people, it triggers their external ego because now they're saying, hey, this world is collapsing on me because they don't have an internalized ego to get their self-esteem. And so when you challenge their ego, they attack you to invalidate you. And when they go through that, they look at the situation they cause for you and things get balanced in their head again. But look how Joe basically had the kids working in his dream world, starting as soon as they can walk properly.
My mother caught me making my bed one day and I was singing. And she said to my father that I could sing and he didn't want to hear of it,
My mother caught me, right? Singing. I mean, he couldn't even sing in front of his mama as a child. She caught him. You can't, the secrets in the family?
That Jermaine's the lead singer, not Michael. My mother said, Joe, you really should hear him sing. He can sing. He goes, no, Jermaine's the lead singer of the group, and that's it. She forced him to listen to me. And once he listened to me, from that moment on.
I noticed something about this picture. Look at this picture. Look at this picture and let me know what's wrong with this picture. All right, I'm gonna give you like 5 seconds, and then just pause it if you don't. But I'm gonna let you look at this. You see everybody else. Look, Tito is Jackie is looking to the right, to the left over here. Tito to the left. He's straight ahead. He's to the left. He's to the left. He's straight ahead to the left. But where is Joe looking at? Joe, I mean, where is he? I mean, are they that out of sync that they don't even look in the same direction when they're taking a picture? And I'm sure the director is to the left. I'm sure Joe just not looking at him. Weird picture.
From that moment on, I was the lead singer of the group.
Yeah, we weren't wealthy, but we weren't poor. My father always prepared for the family, and as well as my mother, always wonderful. That's very important. They made sure we, got the right things for ourselves. Strong pick.
This is a victim describing what was like being captured. Listen to the monologue that he starts in, and then he doesn't seem too sure of himself. Just listen to what he says again. So he describes this family in terms of like idealized terms and things like that. Let's look at here.
Always prepared for the family, and as well as my mother. Always wonderful. That's very
Always wonderful.
important.
Idealization, emotionally, he's very regressed. He's very a young child, so he thinks of things emotionally good or bad.
We, got the right things for ourselves. Strong parents are, I think, are very important, especially now.
He didn't say anything about his parents, though. He just called them. He didn't say, I love my mom, I love my dad, something like that. We have a relationship. He just said strong parents, ideal parents. He just gave
That's very important.
He gave a comment. He gave a commentary on them. He didn't discuss his parents. He gave a commentary on them.
My mother, always wonderful. That's very important. They make sure we.
Did he move his head to the side? Did he say always wonderful? Did he say always? Did he say
Family, as well as my mother, always wonderful. Yeah, we weren't wealthy, but we weren't poor. My father always prepared for the family, and as well as my mother, always wonderful. That's very important. They make sure we, got the right things for ourselves.
Yeah,
Strong
look at
parents are,
he looks like
family,
he
and
looks
as well
like
as my
he's
mother,
describing.
always one.
Look, he's looked like he's describing kidnappers.
Nothing, but we weren't poor. My father always prepared for the family, and as well as my mother, always wonderful. That's very important. They make sure we.
That's very important. They make sure we.
Got the right things for ourselves.
They made sure we got the right things for ourselves when the children are the ones who are actually working. Right? The children are the ones who are taking care of the parents, and the parents got the children believe that the parents are actually working. That Joe is hardworking. Everything is from the narcissist perspective.
Strong parents are, I think, are very important, especially in our situation. Well,
you see, yeah. Now, remember, one of the things these sick people do, they'll go behind your back and start making rumors about you, lying on you. And then another weird thing these idiots do is they try to act like they're close to you in some way. Oh, he's my friend. She's my friend. Oh, I've known them for so time. Oh, that's my neighbor. Oh, I'm so close to them. They try to make it seem like you're a close confidant of them. And then look here.
Important, especially in our situation. Well, on stage.
Now look at what she said.
Right.
Now he gives this disclaimers. Strong parents. What families wouldn't want to identify as strong parents? Because you want your children to grow up right. You want the best for them. So sure, he's going to identify as he's trying to lump himself in the category of strong parents. And I think with Mike advocating for him that time, I think people putting him in their categories. And like they had to do what they had to do. No, they didn't. They didn't have to work him continuously. I live in Chicago, and Gary, Indiana is not too far from here. They would come to the Regal Theater when they started. So they would drive from Gary, Indiana, and come to Chicago, where it was really populated on the South Side. And Michael Jackson and Joe Jackson's career started. Joe Jackson's career started at the Regal Theater on the South Side of Chicago, 79th Street, right off Stony Island.
For ourselves. Strong parents are, I think, are very important, especially.
Strong parents are very important, especially our situation. Well, 11 kids. Wasn't nobody going to mess with y'all? 11 kids? Y'all know the families with 11 kids. They usually had the biggest porch. And then they would just eventually put the TV and the sofa out on the porch, right? And then you the one that helped them move the TV, the sofa with the plastic on it in the house when you were 7, around 17, it's on the porch.
One stick for me was home. I was most comfortable and still most comfortable on stage. But once I got.
So listen to him now as an adult. Now, you see a appearance in his skin color, right? So he's changed his color. And then he said that this wasn't by surgery. And he really believes it. is egocentric, right? Why? He does not have an internalized sense of self. And this was where his market was going to be the most successful. Michael Jackson was the first star who would actually change his body for his new project coming up. He had no internalized sense of self. There was no internalized stable version of him at all. So there was no anchor for him to hold on to. Of course, he can change from a dark-skinned black man to an old white woman. At the end of his career, he only died at 50. He wasn't even old, right? So here you get some indications that he had no internalized sense of self, meaning he had no internalized identity because it was destroyed. And the only thing he had was this external component to his ego. And so the only way he could ever feel safe is by out there performing. This is awful to do that to him. It's awful. When I look at Michael Jackson now, I look at all the pain, I look at all the suffering. I see the child trapped inside that avatar, not understanding all of this complex narcissistic and sociopathic shit around him. And to grow up within a family system so sick that is primarily your family that's exploiting you, that's the story of the South Side of Chicago. And that's why we're talking about this. Narcissistic family codes. On the South Side of Chicago, I think it's inundated with these type of families. That's why 80% of the murders go unsolved. 20% of the children are the murder victims. And 12 to 22-year-old black girls go missing in double digit, triple digits every year. And nobody says anything about it. Not one person. And who's planning? Where are our leaders at? Who's planning on shutting all this shit down? Who's going to do that? So Michael explains what Joe intentionally did to him. Joe basically, I'm going to do narcissism network and the psychology of pimping, because the psychology of pimping is very similar. Destroy the person's internal sense of self and make them lying on the external figure who's claiming that I'm here to protect you. I'm strong. I can help you. But basically, they're leeching off the things that you're providing for them. And this is how these families do, particularly on the South. I don't know I believe it's endemic on the South Side of Chicago. So I believe most of the murders and things are happening. They're happening based upon to people with a lot of empathy. People who are very skilled, people who can make it, right? So listen to how he describes how he's basically been put on the track, which is mean concert performance, to get the external appeals.
And I was like very sad.
Really?
Yes.
And sad from the beginning, sad since it first started, since
Lonely, sad, having to face with popularity and all of that.
What school do you go to? Do you go to a school?
Yeah, I go to private school in the valley.
Do the kids stare at you because you're so rich and famous? Do they? Do they stare at you? Not because of...
It's kind of a school like the kids already in the business. Like,
there are other singers, dancers, and...
Okay. So I think I set this up correctly. I think you got a good idea what I'm talking about. Okay. Now, let me give you I think a deposition that Mike was given in 1996, and it was about the child abuse case. And this goes on for 9 minutes, but I'm going to have to just show you most parts of this so you can understand what I'm saying. This is an older Mike. Okay. Well, let me just show you, give you the progression here. Let me see here. Okay, let me see YouTube. Let me show you what happened. Okay, so Mike was primarily under Joe Jackson, right? And then when he became of age, he left Joe Jackson And when he left Joe Jackson, he basically went to Quincy Jones after he had the album. And then that's when he started adding things to his entourage that mainly serve the function of supporting the internal portion of his ego so he can balance it with the demand, so he doesn't need to demand as much on the external component. Remember, when you're born, it's the people around you, your community, your culture that forms the external component of your ego. And it's all of that that tells you how well you're doing, right? You're in the neighborhood, right? And you walk on someone's grass and they come out and say, hey, don't you do that anymore. That's your ego to being programmed saying, don't walk on people's grass, right? If you went in the supermarket, if you cut the line, the man looks at you, I don't cut the line. Well, you internalize that when you come and go, you stop cutting lines, shutting lines. So they destroy the internal component. Joe intentionally destroyed the internal component, and everybody in his family played their role, watched, and then just act like it didn't happen. After he left Joe, then he got a monkey called Bubbles. Michael Jackson and Bubbles. Look at this. This is 87.
Unleashed a huge set of tax cuts for the wealthiest.
So Michael became very innovative in trying to get his autonomy, his independence. He couldn't do it by himself, so he got the assistance of a little monkey, right? And look, here, he's a black man. Right now, he's gone through the surgery and things like that. But Bubbles represent another soul that engages with Michael like another human being. So Michael can get honesty from the monkey. If the monkey don't like it, the monkey don't care if it's Michael Jackson or not. The monkey don't like it, right? But the people around him serving his external ego, they're going to say what they're programmed to say. And when they say whatever they say and it creates psychological disturbance for Michael, he's not able to determine whether or not it's real or not, valid or not, fake or not, lying or not, gaslighting or not, true or not. So now, since Michael's surrounded by narcissists, psychopaths, and sociopaths, and he's a world figure, he doesn't know people around him are out for whatever reasons they're around for him. So he goes to a monkey for that. The monkey is going to look at him and tell him he's doing okay. The monkey's going to ask for things, and he's going to get a banana and say, oh, thank you for the banana. And he's going to get his emotional, psychological feedback from a monkey, right? Because he's surrounded by a bunch of sociopaths, right? Because narcissism is a network. So he left Joe. And when he left Joe, he's still a black man, but he had to get a monkey to support his internal, to build props for his external ego, because he can't get the internal one fixed or active. Yeah, now look. Yeah, he's human, right? Look, he acts just like us, right? I'll let the monkey, we sit from the same tea. Now, the man was a marketing genius. So I don't know how, man, if I can do that today, that's a marketing genius. Anyway, and I think Bubble is still living. Let me see. I think he's in a sanctuary. Okay, let's see Bubbles.
Michael Jackson's famous pet chimpanzee will leave you speechless. He named his pet as Bubbles and is now 40 years old and resides at the Center for Great Apes in Wachula. Described as huge and funny with a sweet character, Bubbles is the alpha of his group at the sanctuary. His care is currently funded by Jackson's estate at $25,000 per year.
Mike left him some money, huh? Okay, so that's Mike. Let me Let me get back to what I was doing now. Okay. Okay. So, okay. Here. Okay. So here, Michael is he's a black man here, and with Munkles, but then Mike changed to a human. Michael Jackson and so he graduated from the chimpanzee. Now he's still a black man here. He's still a black man. Okay.
I started All Nation Restoration to help people. Chase for business is literally what it says in the name. It is Chase for
Didn't know I
business.
was going to go into a
where I can
commercial.
find everything I need in one place.
I need to get the
So
pay
we
you
help
to
people get back to life.
Okay. Okay, so now Mike evolves. And so the monkey can't really talk back. So he gets a midget, Emmanuel Lewis, a child actor, right? Now he has a child actor. He has a person who's in the developmental stage before the ego is formed, right? So after the ego is formed, then Mike is concerned that he's going to absorb the content from that crowd out there. And now he's going to look at Mike and he's going to learn how to be dishonest to Mike. And Mike won't know the difference. So Mike began to surround himself by people who were in very early stages of their ego development. And that means that Mike got a chance to interact with the people based upon who they really were, not without the distortion of the ego. You got it? And there's a lot of history that goes along with understanding this. And I think Michael understands it very well. Here's a story. I'm not a Christian, but here's a story I want to tell you to help you understand this, right? It's a biblical story. But it describes the ego and the impact that the ego can have on you interpreting your reality. It goes like this. Pharaoh stood in front of Moses stood in front of the army and said, "Let my people go." And the Pharaoh said, "Hey, if you came by God or something like that, then I will do it. If not, I won't." And Moses said, "Okay." He took his staff and tapped it on the ground and threw it on the ground. And it's a stick. And when Pharaoh looked at it, it turned into a snake. When Pharaoh saw that the stick was converted to a snake, Pharaoh thought that Moses performed a miracle, right? All right. And Pharaoh was frightened. Again, I'm not a biblical scholar. I'm not even a Christian. I read this story a long time ago, but it follows the analogy. Pharaoh was terrified and wondered, well, how did you do that? Right? You must have some superpower. You must be coming here from God, right? And then he let the people go, right? But from Moses' perspective, Moses was giving him a neuropsych testing. Moses was saying, well, hey, is this man locked into this concrete primitive world, or does he have access to abstract reasoning, right? Moses understood that he was locked into the primitive world because his ego made him see a snake when it really was a stick. There was never a snake there. It was never a snake at all. And Moses understood that. Moses understood that Pharaoh had a problem with his ego. When Pharaoh looked at that snake, his ego imposed what it wanted to see on the snake. And therefore, Moses understood that Pharaoh was primitive, right? I look at what Mike is doing here. Mike is avoiding people with strong egos, right? Because they have the tendency to be domineering over him, and he avoided that. So here, as you can see, he's having a time with this child in play. Anyway, that's enough of that. So Mike went from the chimpanzee to the human, right? Then he got accused of molesting children. He was accused of molesting children. Let me see here. Let me see. Let me just see if I can find something here. Okay. Now here, yeah. Okay, now I remember seeing this. It was just heartbreaking. But this is, this is how Michael Jackson announced that he changed his skin color. I looked up and it was like this. Like, what happened? What happened? And of course, I'm thinking, oh, this is a wig. I think it's a wig and things like that. But look at it now. The monkey's gone. The little black kid is gone. The black midget is gone. He changed his skin color. He got accused of molesting a child, and now he changed his skin color. So that internalized not having a sense of self, meaning there's no loyalty to your higher self. There's no loyalty to who you really are, right? And so in 1993, I think was OJ's in 91 or something like that. And I think, okay, let me see OJ. I don't know. Did Mike, OJ? Okay, let me see the trial. Let me see the car chase was right at the beginning of it. Let me see where that was, because I think OJ went on crowd and they saw his black face and they were turning his. Oh, did my internet go out? Oh, I hope I paid my bill. Oh, okay. I thought my internet went out on the screen. Okay, so this is it. Okay, where is this at? What year was this? Oh, what year? What year? Okay. Well, I'm thinking. Okay, I understand. Okay. Well, okay. This is 94. Okay, this is 94. Let me see here. Oh, whoa. So this one was first. All right. So anyway, I wonder if he's changed his skin color in an effort to appeal less threatening to the public because he's a black man, or he was a black man. But I think that's concrete enough for him to simply change his skin color because he understands his jury is going to be those looking at him, and he wants them to be fair. So what does he do? Change his skin color so that he can be fair, so they can be fair to him. And so now, and the reason why he can change his skin color, his identity like that, is because Joe destroyed, unalived his internalized sense of self, and so there's no anchor to who he is. And now you can make radical changes like that and then lie to everybody and say it's not. Now here, this is a videotape of the deposition. Now notice the childlike behavior. Notice the degree of regression in a case that's very serious, I would say. It's very serious. Look here, and let me just let this play some so you can get a good idea of how he does not have a cohesive sense of internal self. And so when he goes out and try to handle this very serious situation, he handled it the same way, I think, like an 8 or 9 year old. So he's revealing that he's regressed. His regression is at the age of maybe 9 or 7, 8, 9, because he's playful. Not like a teenager be restless and argumentative and stuff like that. But he playful. That's like a young child. And that's when I think when he describes the abuse, the abuse here. Let me go here. Did I show you guys this part? Okay, I showed you that part. So when he describes the abuse is ritualized. Oh, I don't think I showed you guys that part. Let me see. Let me see if this part was there.
Only use a belt? How often would he beat you?
Too much.
Would he only use a belt?
Look, you see the age that happens to a child? Now, teenagers don't do, maybe not. A teenager may, if you treat a teenager like that, they may rebel or become oppositional, defiant, or fight back. But a child, a child that hiding type, that's that hide and seek type of behavior. He's asked something that makes his ego, makes him scared, and then all of a sudden he hides himself, and then the interviewer is gone. So he hides, and then everybody else on the side is gone to him, right? To him. That's where we're at here. This is how much Michael was destroyed inside, and this is what he had to go through around people and couldn't get any help. This is why these narcissists, psychopaths, and sociopaths are so sick, because they can damage your internal core, everything that's about you, and be walking with you, kicking it like it's cool, and then going, doing things and acting like they're not doing the things that they are intentionally doing. This is the reason why it's important that you understand why narcissists, psychopaths, and sociopaths are very sick people, is that they know exactly the degree of harm they're causing you. They know exactly what they're doing, but they're doing it to you and acting like they're not, and putting performance in front of everybody. Like, what's going on? I think that's wrong with him. He used to be my friend, but he's crazy, right? Shit, like that's type of things they do. But listen to this.
Do you remember any time in your whole life when
There's another let me see here. Okay, let me see if this one. Okay, just look at here. It's the same interview, but it goes on
How
a bit
often would he
further.
beat you?
Too much.
Would he only use a belt?
do you remember any time in your whole life when you weren't performing? Well,
Same video. I'll show it to you later. I thought it was a different one, but I'll show it to you. He describes the whoopings that he was receiving. And once I go through I'm going to do the series strictly on Michael Jackson. I'm going to go through the torture he received. I believe him when he says that he received. Let me see, what else do I have here? Okay, I was going to go through the video here. So yeah, watch how he's so childlike here.
she can't stop it from making There's nothing you can do.
Imagine a child scared at a deposition, and the only coping skill the child has is laughter, right? And it's sort of like an inappropriate laughter. Why? Because the laughter is not congruent with the environment, with the atmosphere, with the conversation. We're talking about you molesting children. You're laughing, right? but he's damaged in the inside. This is the only way that he can sort of like protect himself and say, oh no, that's not me. I'm Michael Jackson. That's not me. You know it's not me.
That might settle it down. Of course, problems might put you to sleep. You're welcome. Mr. Jackson, in the latter portion of 1993, there were some allegations leveled at you concerning improper conduct with some young boys. I assume you're familiar with the fact.
Oh, 93. Hold on. He said 93. Oh, I thought it was. I thought it was. See, I need to be an investigator. I'll be an investigator. Yeah. And so the original claim charge of Michael Jackson came in 93. And so he changed his, and then 93, then OJ in 94. And I think Mike changed his skin color. Okay, and this is okay. This 90. So this is 3 years later. So he was charged in 93. I mean, well, the allegations in 93, OJ in 94, here 96. He has a difference. So I think he changed. I think he from time. I think he did it basically to try to get a favorable jury and things like that. To look favorable for the jury, they wanted to look at a white woman. Not a black man.
Those allegations were raised. Is that right?
Yes.
In fact, there was ultimately at least 2 grand jury inquiries into that I am currently aware of, although counsel tells me there may have been a third. Were you aware that grand jury investigations were conducted into those allegations?
Yes.
Now he gets scared. Can you sense the fear that's growing in him and how his responses are? Now he's trying to really be the mature child to answer the questions right.
Did you know at the time that the grand jury was investigating these matters that they were in fact investigating? In other words, you didn't find out after it had completed. You knew in advance that people were being subpoenaed to testify.
In advance?
Yeah, poorly phrased. Let me rephrase it. It is my understanding that some of Neverland Valley Ranch employees were subpoenaed to testify before the grand jury. Do you know that to be the case as well?
Yes.
Are you familiar with a person named Jody Chandler?
What's that?
Don't answer. We're not going to get into who he knows and doesn't know. If you want to ask a question, go ahead and ask it. But I believe it's beyond the scope of discoverable matters in the case.
Whether he knows of Jody Chandler?
Right.
You're not going to allow me to ask him any questions about Jordan Chandler in any fashion?
You know, looking at Michael's expression during this, I think he's trying to look innocent the same way. And I ain't got anything the same way. But in a deposition, you need to be a bulldog. You need to give the right answers, not appear to. He's not in front of a jury, so people only see his responses.
But
I can't ask him whether he knows him. I said those depositions that Adrian gave, and you're now telling me I can't even ask whether he knows the man or go into any such areas?
He sounds fair.
Let me just make sure my understanding is clear. Is it your position that you will instruct Mr. Jackson not to answer any questions that pertain to the issue of Jody Chandler in any way, whether it be claims leveled by Jody Chandler, if any, or discovery in the Jody Chandler case vis-a-vis Adrian McManus's deposition?
That's the first time I've ever seen Michael Jackson yawn. I ain't never seen the man. He's always okay. Another thing about Michael Jackson is that he was always in character. He was always. Go back and look at my video on narcissism as a network. That Tupac was only an actor. He was an artist, and he was playing a role of a gangster. he believed the role. After he was the artist up until he got shot in New York, and then he went to the dark side. He manifested his lower self and thought he was Tupac the gangster, and he was around real gangsters, and they unalived him. You know, so for him, you know, he does not have a high he has a higher self, but well, Michael Jackson's no longer alive. His inner sense of self is damaged so much that he could no longer be the artist and create the performer Michael Jackson. You know, Joe destroyed his inner sense of self, and now he's permanently locked into the character of Michael Jackson, the superstar. So whenever you saw him, he was always a superstar. He was never a real person. And, you know, even when it comes to things like yawning and everything, he does it like the child in church that don't want his breath to be smelled by the people behind him. You know, he's looking all uncomfortable and things like that. Let me just go through this just a little bit just to show you there. Look at this behavior here.
It be claims leveled by Jody Chandler, if any, or discovery in the Jody Chandler case.
He does not want to look in a pro camera at all. Okay. Sorry for the technical interruption, sir. Having some internet problems. Is it? Okay. All right. So I think this ends my